paranormal. It surrounds us. It's everywhere. Tonight, you will hear from the people who live and work within these highly active locations, all in the efforts to discover America's most haunted. With your host, ghost hunter and author, Dan Terry.
Good evening, boys and ghouls. I am Dan Terry, your ghost host with the most haunted. And this time we're going to shoot down to Arkansas and meet an old friend of mine. Joe Johnson was a police officer. He's now working for AT&T, and he has been a ghost hunter for years. And got to tell you, I met him years ago. A really sweet lady named Jackie Carpenter, very incredible psychic and ghost hunter. She invited me down to Fort Smith to check out a place with Joe and the team down there. It was a brothel, a former brothel, swear to God. And boy, that place was haunted. And there was this one part, and I could tell you a lot of stories about this place, but one in particular, whatever you call the guy, the pimp, or whatever you call the guy who was running the prostitutes, he was a very mean spirit, angry and tough. And he started chasing Jackie up the stairs. We could not see him, but as she was climbing up, I could hear the stomping as he was right behind her. And I got in between her and him at the top of the steps, and he stopped. And I yelled around at him for a little while, and I don't know what happened, if he got around me, if he just went away. I never heard the stomping again. Most incredible experience I had, and I've had some incredible experiences, as you know. And Joe was right there with me. So let me bring on Joe Johnson with Northern Arkansas Paranormal.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm glad to run into you again, to get to chat with you again. It's been, what, 15 years or more?
At least.
Yeah. And we were just talking that I was just, describing, I guess you probably heard the incredible stuff that happened in that place.
Yeah. We had a pretty eventful night that night, not to mention the fact that before we even got started, you and I, as at the time, both of us were still police officers.
Mm-hmm.
We had to go in and clear the house because homeless were known to hang out there, if you remember that.
Yeah, I had forgotten that, but you're right. And it was in the basement of that house that I first realized that the phone apps actually can work.
Yes.
And I was talking to a spirit of a boy who drowned in the river, and he kept throwing up words about water, river, drowning, gasping. And then I'd ask him to stop, and he'd disappear and come back. The thing would start again.
Yeah.
That was just crazy.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned the phone apps. There are some that are just apps that run through stuff, but there are a few that actually use the sensors and stuff built into the phones that actually do work. Mm-hmm. And, that's and a lot of that is still some of the same principle that Bill Chappell uses for his Ovilus and other things like that, those sensors. So, that if the same technology works for the Ovilus or the Paranormal Puck or any of these other devices that Bill is created and are so widespread these days, that some of those apps for the phone are going to be just as good.
Yeah. I had a lot of luck with Ghost Radar. Yes. And what was the other one? M4 Ghost Hunter or something like that.
Right. I use a lot of time now. I use Necrophonic.
Everyone's telling me about that. I haven't got it yet, but I'm hearing good stuff.
As a matter of fact, in some of the video clips this will show, I'm holding my phone with the earbuds in. I can't hear what the other person is saying at all. It's kind of like I said, an off the cuff Estes deal, but I'm relaying what Necrophonic is telling me in my earphones.
Right. So we'll play those videos later on. But that was That was some interesting stuff going on. And you was not hearing what she was saying at all.
No, I couldn't hear what she was saying at all. And as a matter of fact, if you see most of the time, I'm not even looking at her. I'm looking away, looking down,
Okay.
and that was intentional because I didn't want people to think that I was getting cues from her, which that was absolutely not the case. Matter of fact, the lady that shot the video, Janice, she, not Janice, I just said her name is Nancy. She, was like, why don't you look at her? Later on, she said, why didn't you look at her? I'm like, well, because there's a reason. I don't want people to think that you're taking cues from the other person. Right. Now, there are times in some of those that you'll see where I do glance over at her after I say something.
Yeah.
See her reaction, which is kind of a cue, but it wasn't the whole time.
No. Oh no, it was an incredible video. It was amazing. Pardon me. We talked before the show started. Things I didn't know about you, and that's quite a bit about the Boggy Creek legend.
Absolutely. I'm originally from Texarkana, and Texarkana, Arkansas is about 20 miles north of Fouke, Arkansas, where the legend of Boggy Creek occurred. And I do say legend of Boggy Creek to bring into the next point that's a Charles B. Pierce film that he filmed on location with some of the witnesses that actually experienced these things. At some point here, you'll show a picture of a buddy of mine who lives just a little bit of ways from Fouke in Jonesville. There's Doyle there. Doyle is holding in his hands a replica of an actual casting of a track that he found on the Sulphur River bottoms on his property. That casting was given to him so he could have a copy of it by Lyle Blackburn. Lyle Blackburn, I believe, has the original for safekeeping, but he did have a copy made for Doyle to have for his own personal use and showing. I've known Doyle going on 40 years, and I know him to be one of the most honest people, down to earth, good Christian man that you'll ever want to meet. So when he tells you something, you can believe it. And I believe every word of every story that he told. I've lost your audio, Dan. I think you're muted.
Thanks. Just for the folks that don't know, because that was a long time ago, I was probably, that come out what, 73, 74?
73, I believe.
73. So I would have been 10 years old when the movie The Legend of Boggy Creek came out, and part of it had the Bigfoot or the Boggy Creek monster or the cryptid, whatever you want to call it, with these kids trapped in a trailer.
Yes,
and he was beat. Oh, it was scary. It scared the heck out of me. I saw it at a drive-in.
Yeah, that was the three young ladies at the Cersei place, and I know some Cerseis. And I know some Crabtrees, and I know some Pilgrims. I know a bunch of people from that area.
And I was under the assumption until recently that was just a work of fiction. It was just a scary movie until I met Lyle Blackburn about a year ago in West Virginia at the West Virginia Cryptid meeting. And he said, no, it was actually quite accurate. So what do you have prowling around down there?
A lot of people don't think it's a actual Sasquatch because the footprints, other than the ones that I've seen here recently in the recent years, like, for example, the one Doyle found had 5 toes. The original print only had 3. Now, across Arkansas, in several different locations across the state, there are 3-toed footprints that are found. So it leads you to wonder, is it a subspecies? Or is it the same creature that is migrating to different areas for food sources or water sources or whatever the situation may be? So you're muted again. Sorry, Dan.
I'm sorry, my fault.
That's all right.
Could we be dealing with a dog man?
That's another theory that has been thrown out there that I've heard over the years. You've got the dogman legends from Louisiana. You've got them from up in northern Missouri. In further north. So, there's not really any telling. Of course, then you got the Ozark Howler, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Sure.
That, it travels between Arkansas and Missouri in the Ozark Mountain Range. So it's you just there's so many different variations of what it could be.
And then it's crazy. You're dealing with 5 toes and 3 toes, which would insinuate totally different creatures.
Right.
And you, like you said, you got the Rougarou down in
you would think that
Louisiana.
it's an
So you got the Rougarou,
right.
You got the Dogman. There's still legends of werewolves. There's Bigfoot, skunk apes, Momo.
Absolutely.
And I don't know.
Yep. Yeah.
We know the skunk apes are shorter than the Sasquatch is. So it's
absolutely
it's wild. And you've started looking into this a lot more, haven't you?
Yes, I have. And as a matter of fact, I'm currently planning an expedition down to the Sulphur River Bottoms area this coming spring. Doyle has been gracious enough to say, hey, my property's right here. Bring a camper, tents, whatever you want to do, however many people you want. We'll make sure they're fed, and we'll show you every place that you need to go.
All right.
So that's, like I said, Doyle, he's one of the great guys. He's one of these down-home Southern men that wants to take care and make everybody happy.
That's awesome. And that is on western Arkansas, not far from Oklahoma, if I remember right.
You're exactly right. And matter of fact, here in my area, in the Fort Smith area, if you remember right, you can just cross a bridge and you'll be in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
A lot of people are talking about, to put it in perspective for some listeners that may not know, they've all heard of the hanging judge,
Judge Parker.
Yeah. And so, and matter of fact, you saw the gallows.
I was there.
You know where he hung them. But at the same time, there was a deputy that has been recently very, very well publicized.
Bass Reeves.
And made famous. Bass Reeves, exactly.
They say that was the basis of the Lone Ranger, was what Bass Reeves did.
That's exactly right. And, so I haven't seen the show on Paramount Plus yet. I'm wanting to watch it. I'm just kind of waiting until everything's run so I can just kind of watch the whole thing at once. But, of course, the gentleman that created Yellowstone is the same person that has created this show. Tyler. Tyler. I can't remember his full name right now off the top of my head, but he has done so much good with bringing not only the fictional stories like Yellowstone, but also bringing out some of the historical situations for people to watch. Now, of course, we're kind of leaving it off the track here, but to get back on track, yes, we're just right across the river from Oklahoma. Matter of fact, you get into the Boston Mountain Range, Ozark National Forest, all those areas that bleed over into the Oklahoma side from just, actually even before, further north of Fort Smith in Oklahoma, all the way down south to the Texas border and into the southwest Arkansas into Louisiana, you're getting reports of these Bigfoot sightings.
Okay.
So the habitat here is very well suited for that kind of a creature. There's plenty of food sources, plenty of water, lots of hiding spots. Okay. So, it's ideal for a bigger undiscovered creature.
Well, be sure and let me know if you get any evidence and some good video, and we'll bring you back just to talk about your trip into the woods.
Absolutely. And I've got several people that are wanting to go. I don't know if you remember Anita Tallbull. Anita Tallbull lives over in Oklahoma. Okay. She's been on several of the Booth Brothers films. The most recent one were Trail of Tears, or was it Trail of... Yeah, the one about the Native Americans. Yeah. And so Anita and her son Marcus have been in several of the Booth Brothers films. So with Keith Age and stuff. So Anita's is planning on coming down for that expedition as well. So all right. It's going to be an exciting time. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, let's take a look at this. You sent me a picture, and right in the upper corner, and it's to the left, to the right of the window, there's a face and a body of what looks like a ghost. Dark hair, whitish shirt, and a coat. What's your story? You took that photo, didn't you?
Yes, I took that photo. To kind of give you a little bit of backstory, this was in Abbeville, South Carolina. I was there as a speaker for the paranormal conference that was put on by Dave and Karen Van Marm. This past October was a year ago. The Upstate Paranormal Conference. So this house that you see in the background sits behind the Dindy House. The Dindy House was built in the 1700s and was originally on the side of the Belmont Hotel, which everybody knows is one of the most haunted hotels in the country. It was moved to this location so they could build the Belmont. Now, this house was built around the kitchen for the Dindy House. The Dindy House, back in those days, they always built the kitchen and cooking area away from the main home in case of a fire. You know, that way that part would burn up and it wouldn't burn down their living quarters. You know, or if there was a fire in the stove overnight, they all wouldn't burn to death, that type of thing. So we're walking through. This is the night of the investigation. And I just got taking pictures, you know, just random pictures. And this is what came up. And it caught my eye when I was reviewing them. In the front portion are cinder blocks that were stacked up. Then there was about a good, I would say, 7-8 feet between the cinder blocks and the house, maybe 10.
Okay.
So if you kind of look at it, you can see that figure is in between the cinder blocks and the house. So he was roughly in that 10-foot space. My belief is that this was a soldier, because the grounds that this is on was the old, where the old armory was.
Okay.
For the War of 1812. Confederate soldiers, as a lot of people realize and believe and understand, Abbeville they call it the birthplace of the Confederacy, because that's where a lot of the talk about seceding from the Union came from. So when the Civil War started, that's where a lot of people mustered to, was Abbeville. So that was the property that the armory stood on as far back as the War of 1812, and even, you know, a little bit further. Now, having said that, across the way from the Dindy House is the old original courthouse. Now, this big, I believe it's a 3-story, 3-level courthouse that was built, I'm wanting to say, if I remember, memory serves me, pre-Civil War.
Is it still standing?
It is.
Okay.
It was used up until the 80s before they built a new courthouse, more modern courthouse. What a lot of people don't realize about that courthouse is the jail cells were on the top floor. And it didn't matter if you were a criminal, didn't matter if you were mentally unstable, whatever the situation may be. Even destitute homeless people were thrown in this jail. Now, it's like I was telling you earlier, you take the worst case scenario of a jail that you can imagine, just the most violent, vile place that you can imagine. And this place was worse.
Okay.
They had mentally unstable or handicapped women in cells with men, criminals. These women were raped and abused. You know, of course, the abuse went both ways. I mean, it's not like a woman was abusing the men, but, you know, the men abused the men. You know, so, and the place that they hung convicted and sentenced to death prisoners was also inside that building. They hung them from the rafters. So, and what they would do, if it was an indigent person or a criminal that nobody claimed, they would just take them out back and bury them in a grave. So they were, the film that you'll get into, you'll see me saying what the necrophonic is saying to me as Raina. Raina Carroll is her name, and she's a shaman and a sensitive, and I mean, she's very in tune. She really impressed me that night. She was pointing out where some of these unmarked graves were, and the owner of the Dindy House, and I believe the gentleman that was there is like the groundskeeper for these historical places that are there, was there, and they were marking wherever she said that I'm being told there's a grave there. So that's how much they believed her as well. They truly believed that she was actually getting that information and pointing them in the right direction because they had no idea where the graves were. So, and again, like I said, I hadn't been able to follow up to find out if, excuse me, if those graves were actually, if they'd done any further research to verify that or not. But that night I was very impressed with her, and I have no doubt she probably hit the bullseye.
Okay. And then you sent this one, which it's hard to see, but I could make out a shadow in the doorway.
Yes.
Looking out on the on my right side, as I look at it, it's the right side of the doorway, is a human shadow.
Yes.
What was this one?
That was at an undisclosed location in Oklahoma. I can't for contractual and requests of the people that are over that place have requested that that nobody not talk about the location. It's simply because it's a matter of respect and they don't want it to be overrun. But there were several of us in the hallway, and the reason it looks so bright is two reasons. Number one, it was a flash photography, which actually lit up the hallway. And also I lightened it a bit just so you could see that shadow figure better at the end of the hall. But there were several of us, and we had all kind of hunkered down at the end of this hallway looking back towards that doorway, and we had heard noises. Several people said, I think I saw something in that doorway. The last person that said that, I snapped 2 pictures, and I got lucky enough to catch it in the first one. The second one didn't have anything in it.
Okay. So you've explored some really interesting places down that way.
Oh, absolutely. There's another place in a nearby town that I can't say the name of it either for the same reason. But suffice it to say, it's an old hospital where thousands of people died. And I do literally mean thousands. Only bested by the hospital in Louisville. Waverly Hills. Everybody knows Waverly Hills.
Yes.
So it was only bested by that as far as the deaths go.
Okay.
I have seen some things in that place that will literally curl your toenails. I'll give you one story. We were in there one night, and of course, every nurse's station is kind of set back off the main hall, as they are, for the nurse to sit back and have rooms for records and a desk and whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
And me and this lady were walking by, and she stopped and she said, I think I saw somebody back there. I'm like, I didn't see anybody. I said, what did you see? And she goes, I saw somebody. And she stopped right there, and she flew back and hit the wall on the other side of the hall behind us. And she goes, it just pushed me. And I said, it pushed you? And she goes, yeah. And she pulled her shirt down just about like I am, to where you couldn't see anything other than the top of her chest. And there was a handprint. Now, I was standing there the whole time. There's no way she could have slapped herself. I was looking at her when this happened.
Mm-hmm.
She literally, off her feet, flew back about 3 or 4 foot and hit the wall.
Wow.
And then she said, it pushed me. We later found out that there had been some other people in there playing around with Ouija boards and other ways of opening portals. So we feel like that they had opened the door for something that shouldn't have been there. Because that's the first violent encounter that I'd ever had in that place.
Okay.
Get spooked out, but it wasn't violent like that was. So, and there were some other instances too. And I could go on for hours, but I'm sure there's other things you want to talk about.
Oh, that's whatever you want to talk about. You're the one who deals with the haunts down that way. And we were together in that former brothel, and it was being rebuilt at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I know one of the pictures I got had fog about that big around coming down the stairway, like somebody's arm may have been leaning on it. And then we all heard that stomping of that guy coming up the steps. And that was a place you'd been into before, hadn't you?
Well, actually, believe it or not, that night was the first night I'd been there for an investigation. Now, I had done a walkthrough but I hadn't actually done an investigation. And believe it or not, and it just pains me to no end. I had a computer crash, didn't back it up, lost the EVPs. But I heard a man's voice on an EVP. I thought another one was a cat meowing in the background, but Jackie's daughter Beth, she told me that she really listened to it and slowed it down, and it was actually a child speaking, trying to say something. So
I think the sensitives that were with us that night, Jackie and the girls, they were saying there was at least one or more children in there.
Yeah. Earlier. Yeah, and so that EVPs, those two EVPs were taken during the walkthrough. They weren't actually made the night of the investigation. Now, there's a lot of evidence in video and stuff that Jackie took back with her. And now, unfortunately, God rest her soul, we lost her, and so I don't know where any of that evidence is. We had every intention of making a film. That's why you were there. So that's why Jackie and we handed over tapes and everything else, videotapes and everything. So Jackie had all that stuff. Now, what happened to it, I don't know.
Well, I'm sure one of her daughters must have some idea.
I would think, and they probably just got it secured away somewhere. I know they're not the type to do anything with it that shouldn't be done. So I think they're just keeping it for safekeeping. Safekeeping.
Boy, I would love to see that again.
Oh, all right, man,
Joe. Yeah, Joe, I'm going to let you go for just a second, so don't go anywhere. And we're going to kind of show some of the other shows, talk a little bit about it, and I'll be right back with you because I want to show the videos of you out in that field, okay?
All right, very good.
All right, hang on. Okay, guys, we're talking about haunted Arkansas and the area, not just haunted. We're talking about the legend of Boggy Creek, the Boggy Creek monster. They did a sequel to it here a few years ago, both movies were filmed down there. So there's a lot more going on in there than you might think. And while you're thinking about that, I also want you to think about joining the UNX network and check this out. Yes, my friends, the UNX network has all these incredible shows growing all the time, and the UNX network has their very own conference, Springfield, Missouri. We held it in October of this year. We'll be holding it again next October in the same place. And we found out while we was there that hotel was incredibly, amazingly haunted. I figured it out sitting here. I had a table with my books on it I was selling, and I saw this shadow float across the room and disappear. I saw one walk across the stage. I saw one scuttle across the floor. Then we found out from the people working there it really was that haunted. And next year we're going to do ghost hunts at this conference. And I'll tell you more about UNX Network and the conference and all that. But right now, I want to get back to Joe with Northwestern Arkansas Paranormal. Yes. For some reason, the Western wasn't coming in.
It's quite all right.
Hey, while we're on that topic, though, you're preparing to start your own podcast, right?
I am. I've got everything set up for it to start. I've got my own YouTube channel, and I'm slowly but surely building everything up, getting ready to do it. I was hoping that in that it's Western Arkansas Paranormal on YouTube, if I remember correctly. It's been a minute, but I had so many things happen here in the last 6 months that it's kind of delayed a lot of stuff. I had knee surgery and some other issues pop up. So it's been difficult to try and get everything going now. Just to kind of point out why I've got the logos I've got on my logo there. Of course,
Right.
you've got your cryptids for the Bigfoot with the Bigfoot there, UFOs, and then at the bottom you've got the skeleton praying that says deliverance. I chose that and put that on there because I think what my intent with a lot of the paranormal investigations that I do is to help the dead get deliverance, help them go where they need to go. Not only that, help the families that are experiencing this stuff and get them delivered from the issues that they're experiencing as well.
Okay.
Uh, Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do a lot of investigating because of the knee injury and et cetera. But that's fixing to start changing in 2024, and I think you're going to see me come around, and you'll get to see this face quite a bit in a big way.
Well, be sure and let me know ahead of time. Hell, bring you back on, talk some more about it then.
Absolutely,
All
absolutely.
right. All right. So, can you set up what we had here at the, well, when you were taught, you and this woman were dealing with
Right.
something?
So the area that we're standing is behind the old courthouse that I described earlier. Um, this is where she is getting some communication from some spirits. It is not the typical Estes method that you would normally think. It was kind of off the cuff, spur of the moment. I had earphones in, full volume, so I couldn't hear anything she was saying. I didn't have the blindfold, obviously. We were outside and there were a lot of trip hazards. But you'll notice that I intentionally don't look at her. And for that reason is because I don't want people saying, "Hey, he's getting cues from her," and try to debunk what is going on. Everything you see in there, it hasn't been edited other than the clips that you've taken out. Uh, Everything you see is as it happened when it happened. Um, this lady just really blew me away. Her name's Rena Carroll, and she is a shaman and a sensitive. She does all sorts of stuff to help spirits move on.
Mhm.
She's got a lot of experience. She's a very impressive woman.
Okay.
So that kind of leads into to the video there.
All right. And friends, he sent me a 12 and a half minute video, and I've cut it down some because I, for one thing, couldn't plan all 12 minutes on here. I had to cut it down. And I went through it. I'm afraid I cut some stuff I wish I didn't have to, but I got the best parts of it. And there was, if I'm understanding what I, okay, Joe, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. We lost you there for a second.
Yeah, I don't know what happened on that one. That's kind of weird. Okay. Anyway, there was a woman there. If I understood, the spirit was a female and she was being held by someone.
Correct, correct. Yeah, and some of the
Okay.
words, and I don't know if you edited out some of the bad words that were
I
coming
did.
through,
Yeah.
but whatever was holding this woman was not happy that Raina and I were there.
Hmm. I don't think he's happy now if he's shutting my video feed off. I've never
that,
seen that happen before.
that thought came across my mind.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's play the first one. It's just about a minute and a half long.
Walk through, break the chains. You're free from the thing that holds you there.
Stop.
In Jesus' name, amen.
No.
I smell something.
Death. I'm tired now.
How did she die in
That's
the
a male or a
house?
female?
Female. Mel said shortly after I said that, I've got you.
Got who?
I think her.
He
Uh-huh.
doesn't have you. He can only have you if you give him power to have you. It is your choice, it is not his. You walk freely as a sovereign being in the name of the Lord. So get up and don't believe the lies that this thing is telling you and walk through the doorway to the light that Jesus is holding open for you. I am seeing Archangel Michael stand there with the sword of God in front of him. He is a shield between you and this thing. Do not listen to it. It is a fallacy. It is lies. That door is open to you. Walk through and do it now.
She cried out in a female crying voice, "Oh no."
So she was seeing Michael there trying to help,
Mhm.
but the woman did not want to cross over.
She was too scared to.
Okay.
She was afraid of whatever was holding there, whatever it was doing or telling her. She was scared to death to go forward. And apparently, right before I said what the necrophonic told me was the female voice crying out, "Oh no!" The only thing that we could come up with after reviewing this was that she was being attacked. I
You
guess would be
mentioned
the
that later in this.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Let's hit the next one.
Stand there for you, but I cannot make the journey for you. It must be your own free will to break free from this entity that is making you believe that you are held there. You are the one that has the power.
He's behind you. That's what it just said. He's behind you.
Archangel Michael, Jesus Christ, protect me from what is attempting to.
He's torturing the hell out of that spirit.
I'm sure he is.
It's
but-
like birth.
Wow.
Yes, but I cannot force her into the light. She, she has to believe. She has to believe that she's worthy.
One out.
And she is.
She wants out.
She's
Walk out.
Go.
I'm giving you the doorway, but I cannot keep you through it.
Female voice said, "God."
Yes,
Yes.
that's who you call on. God loves you.
Anybody. It's like
God loves everybody, regardless of what sin you think you've committed.
What was you hearing there, Joe?
it was a female voice that just kept. I mean, it just sounded tortured. I
Okay.
mean, it was screaming, it was crying. Then in the background, you could hear some male sounds that just. I mean, I was literally just getting nervous. That's why, if you notice, when I said it's behind you, is what was coming through on the necrophonic. She ran towards me.
Well,
And
yes.
that's when I said, whatever it is torturing the hell out of this spirit.
Hmm.
Because the things that I heard coming through that it was unimaginable. I mean, it sounded
Okay.
like somebody had opened the doorway to hell.
And I think I might have missed one. Let me double check.
Hot makes me feel something.
Is that the female?
What?
Okay.
Get out.
I am,
You see?
and I am taking you
You see
here
that?
to the light. Past, he won't let her past Archangel.
It's red.
I am
Red
taking
looking.
you here.
These are white.
Yeah.
And if you cannot walk
It goes all the way
because you
down
do
to the
not
tree.
believe
Yep.
that he can hold,
That's
do you
kind of
believe he
strange
can
to
hold
me.
you, or I'm taking you?
It's the tower that's in that chain link fence, but it looks almost illuminated.
Yeah, it's red. It's reddish, silver looking. These are white. See
Yeah.
the total
I have her in a
difference? It's like
bubble.
a sun
I have
is
put her in the portal.
reflecting off of it or
I
something.
cannot force her to go in the portal because she
Now you
has
see
free
those
will.
clouds over there? There's nothing like that right there.
And so I have you in a container in a bubble. He cannot reach in this bubble. Your family is waiting on the other side.
Sounded like
Salvation
the
is
female
on
voice of the devil.
The devil is not on the other side. That's what he's telling you it is, because he's trying to keep you here.
What was you
Yeah.
seeing that you two were looking at a red something?
Right. So Nancy was the one videoing, and she was seeing this almost, I guess the best way to describe it would be orb-like lights
Okay.
that just suddenly started appearing during that portion, which is towards the end of the video, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
And there was a couple of glimpses that I saw, and of course, you heard me trying to debunk. Well, there's the tower on the other side of the fence,
Okay.
those type of things. I was trying to debunk everything that I could think of to debunk what we were seeing, but there was really no way. And then at some point, I don't know if it was this is really the first time I noticed it, seeing that clip, but there was something that came flying towards the camera. Now, it was probably a bug of some sort.
That was my
But
guess. Yeah.
yeah, but everything that was flying around at that time, it was hard to discern what was coming at you. I mean, you were seeing things out of the corner of your eyes. You were seeing shadows. I mean, it was intense.
Yeah, apparently. Okay,
Yeah.
this one?
Behind me, because he can't leave that house, because you're
Book.
in that house. And if he's holding you there, he sure ain't behind
There's a
me.
French book back in the house.
Yeah.
Encyclopedia.
Female voice says she's going to, and then
He cannot leave the house.
hurt. Male voice.
Please, if you
No
want
female voice.
free of this, you must, in your container,
Now. Male
go
voice.
to the light. Do you remember your mother?
Full.
Do you remember your mother? Or your grandmother? There is a Native American that is there,
Please, female voice.
and she is wanting to assist with bringing her over.
So what happened to that?
Well, I mean, it's weird. You heard us talking about the book.
Yeah.
There was a book in the Dindy house that was not even, in the same area. We were, if you notice the steps in the background with the porch light, that was the back of the courthouse.
Okay.
So the Dindy house was a good 200 yards away, and those two had not even been in the Dindy house at that point. So Raina picked up on something about a French book, and there were several books in the Dindy house that it could have referred to. It's just hard to say exactly what it was, but there was so much going on. It was hard to keep track.
Okay.
It just all kind of blended together by the end of the night.
All right, we've got one more here. This is kind of the end of it, so let's check this one out.
Opening up the portal and asking Archangel Michael to escort you both through the portal. I could not make you take that walk, but I promise that when you get to the other side, you will find peace. You will not find judgment.
It's night.
You will not find hate. You will find acceptance and love.
Let go.
You can walk through there now and be free, both of you. And that entire house in a bubble of unconditional love, of Christ's light, of the Holy Spirit. Decide that you're ready to forgive yourself and move on.
Amen.
But this is the gift that I am giving you. This is the gift that God gives you, because you are a child of God.
Can never overcome the power of God.
You are a part of God, and regardless of decisions that you made as a human, we are all imperfect, and Jesus forgives all. Whether or not you believe in Jesus is irrelevant.
Not there yet.
It is what it is. And so here you are in this bubble of light with the doorway open to freedom, both of you. You, the murderer, and you, the victim. And so that is what I have to offer, is the truth.
She does remind me a lot of Jackie.
Yes. And, you know, I mean, just about everything. She was to the left of me. I was looking straight ahead in the darkness. She was talking to this spirit. And if you listen to what she said and some of the things that I said was almost a direct reply
Yeah. Yeah.
that was coming off the necrophonic. And so by the time we got done with that, and the only reason we stopped is because the battery was dying on the camera and my phone that had that app on it was dying. We were literally worn out. I at that point went in back into the Dindy house, gathered up my equipment, didn't stay for the rest of the investigation. Said I got to go back. Went back to the Belmont. Ran into a friend of mine, Talia, who is an ordained minister, and was telling her what had happened. She said, "Do you want holy water?" And I said, "Please." And she sprayed me with holy water from top to bottom.
Right.
And it was then that I started feeling better. That's how much I was drained just from that whole interaction. I had never up to that point experienced anything like it. And I've seen some pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so that was a pretty intense night. And there were several people that have seen that footage and saw the picture and several other pictures that were taken that night. And they were like, my gosh, that's so compelling. You know, that is some pretty compelling evidence.
Have you went back to see if what I'm catching is there was two people there, and they both needed to cross over, but one was afraid to and was holding the other. Is that what you got?
Yeah, it's yeah, that's pretty much what I got. Although I do think that the female spirit was being dominated by the other spirit to the point to where she was scared to move forward or even attempt to listen. Although she was open to, as you heard, open to what Raina was saying. She had mentioned God a time or two. The spirit did through the box and several other references to that what Raina was saying. So she was getting the grasp of it, but I think she was just too scared to move forward because of whatever else was there.
Yeah. And the other one, which I suspect was human, was bringing up the name of the devil and all of that.
Yes.
Trying to scare you, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I think that's where, you know, from the video prior, when I said it's behind you is what came through to me. And I think at that same time, Raina felt that, because you notice is the same time I'm saying it, she's running. You know, so I'm pretty sure she sensed it behind her about the same time that I said it.
Okay. But she was feeling this thing and talking to it and trying to get it to cross over as well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is why I suspect it was human. But you've never been back to see if they're still there?
I haven't. Abbeville, that's about a 13-hour drive from where I'm
South Carolina. You're right.
South Carolina. So now I do know that David and Karen Van Marm are going to be doing another investigation at the Dindy here soon. So I'm going to get with them and see if they can pick up on anything, as if it calmed down since we were there or not. That's unfortunate part about being so far away from such a location, you know, that it's hard to get back to verify and see if anything has been accomplished or not.
Yeah. Oh, I understand that. Done a lot of work lately in West Virginia, and I miss Kansas. I did a lot of work in Kansas.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I understand that. So other than the podcast, what's your plans right now?
Oh, my plans are just to try and find happiness again. Work life has been kind of tough. Because it's so many hours. It made it tough to have any kind of personal life, is the point I'm getting to. Right now we're in the slow time of year, so that's going to help. I should spread my dirty laundry on air, but I've recently got divorced, so
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'll leave it at that. It's okay. But I have met somebody that's been a breath of fresh air. And we're planning on taking a cruise in October with my family, and my mom is currently staying with us, so that's a good thing, and that's things are looking up. So I hope that it will follow through with the rest of my paranormal endeavors as well.
Well, Joe, I've worked with you, and I think you're really professional and did a great job at working with you there in that old brothel. Was just, like I said, it was amazing. And, you were right with me. You didn't get scared. Absolutely. You didn't back off. You were right there. So I think you're going to do great. And you got to remind me and let me know when that podcast is ready to throw.
Absolutely. And you'll be one of the first guests I have on. I'll return the favor.
Well, that sounds great, but I do want to get you back before then, and we'll talk some more about it. Get you some.
Absolutely. And I'll keep you up to date on when the expedition is, and hopefully I'll have some good video clips and photos that I can share with you on that. Like I said, it's going to be sometime in the spring. According to Doyle, the most active times are in the fall and in the spring. So we're going to try and catch that active time. So.
Well, sounds great, and I'm looking forward to someday getting back down there and working with you again.
Absolutely. We'll make it happen at some point. Quick, if we got the time before I cut you loose. Sure. I know you worked on the Morse Mill project with Jackie and them. Jackie and Stephen LaChance. My training for AT&T was in St. Louis 9 years ago. January 9th would be 9 years ago is when I started. I rode up there with a buddy that hired on at the same time. And we were trying to find our way down to where a pole climbing school was, because we had to start the first week for pole climbing to climb telephone poles, learn how to do it. We got lost. It was January, icy, bad weather, your typical weather in that area.
Love Missouri weather. Yeah, I miss it.
And all of a sudden I see a sign for the Merrimack River. And I'm like, okay, I think I know where we're at. I said, there's a hotel here. And about that time we see the sign, Morse Mill.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God. And I told him the story about the Morse Mill project. He got creeped out.
Yeah.
He said, how did we end up here? And I'm like, well, certain times you're guided by something to where you need to go. So I figured you'd get a kick out of that story.
Yeah, I ghost hunted that place 3 more times after Jackie was done.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Kept going back. And it was.
Believe it or not, I was asked to be a part of that project.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah,
Jackie and Stephen both asked me, and unfortunately at that time I couldn't get away to get up there to do it, so they proceeded. Sure. But I've got a copy of the DVD. And I pop in every now and again. So,
all right. Well, I think I had hair back then too. So
a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. All right. Well, Joe Johnson, the founder and I guess lead investigator for Western Arkansas Paranormal.
Correct.
Cryptids, UFOs, ghosts. You're covering it all with a podcast coming up. And one more time, that'll be the Western Arkansas Paranormal.
Absolutely. We've got a website that's in the process of being developed. The website is not active yet, but it's westernarkansasparanormal.com. So at some point, and you'll be the first to know when it's up and running.
All right. Well, sounds good. And thanks for being a guest tonight. You've been great.
Absolutely. And it's been a pleasure talking to you and seeing you again. It's been too many years. We're going to have to get together sometime.
We're going to do it. Maybe next time I'm in Springfield.
Absolutely. That's not that far of a drive. I can meet you there.
Not really. All right. Take care of yourself, buddy.
All right, man. You too.
See ya. All right, my friends. I do want to hit one more time real briefly. To become a member of the UNX Network, all you got to do is go into the website, unxnetwork.com. Go down a little bit on the front page. There's a place to put in your email address. And guess what you get out of that? For all that long typing, all you got is access to the X blog. And that thing lately is burning up because there's cube-shaped UFOs being seen in different areas. There UFO flap over Missouri not too long ago, Missouri and Kansas. And when that kind of stuff happens, you're right on the forefront. Also, you get the newsletter and a magazine sent to your email address monthly. Now, I'm a writer for the magazine, and there's a whole bunch of us, some of the best in paranormal. The dark one on the left, I did an article on the haunted battleship North Carolina. And I also did one, and I'm sure some of you all remember the old legends that Halloween always brought cultists who were trying to kidnap blonde-haired virgins, that the people were poisoning the apples, putting razor blades in the fruit. And I actually researched and found the basis for all of that. And it was never as bad as they pretended to be. The other magazine was specifically about time travel, although there's still ghost stories and everything else in it. And all of that, just put your name down, become a member of the UNX Network. Then Springfield, next October, we're going to have the conference. Some best speakers from around the country come down to talk, and we had a blast last time. So keep it in mind. And there's a lot of little extras on those too, if you're a member. So keep an eye out for that. Watch out for Joe, because he's all over the place. Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, South Carolina. So keep an eye out for him. Keep an eye to the sky, and don't forget to stay spooked. Good night.